Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev's overseas initiative was firmed up and widened today. He leaves this week for India, arrives in New York City December 6th to address the United Nations. That'd be on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th. Then to Cuba to see Fidel Castro, and on to Britain to visit Prime Minister Thatcher. On Gorbachev's American visit, he is to meet with both President Reagan and President-elect Bush. The Vice President concluded his Florida vacation this morning and later in Washington met with the first foreign leader since the election, Chancellor Kohl of West Germany. Tomorrow, Mr. Bush confers with Britain's Prime Minister Thatcher. The President-elect made a not unexpected appointment today, and Deborah Potter reports on that.
In another move meant to signal stability in economic policy, President-elect Bush chose to keep Nicholas Brady as Secretary of the Treasury.
He will be the chief economic spokesman for my administration, and he knows we've got to sit down with the Congress and hammer out a budget deficit reduction agreement, and that we have to do it soon.
I'll do my best to help the President-elect serve the people and to build on this, the longest economic recovery in the history of this country.
Brady's selection, following the choice of former Treasury Secretary James Baker as Secretary of State, was clearly aimed at reassuring jittery financial markets, which tumbled last week amid concerns about the deficit.
I hope that to the degree they need calming, it will have that effect.
They have a team that is going to inspire confidence and that is going to look politically strong. The major question, though, is what are they going to do?
Another open question, who will be chief of staff in the Bush White House? The main rivals, longtime Bush aide Craig Fuller and New Hampshire Governor John Sununu, who helped save the Bush candidacy during the primaries. In what seemed to be a sign, the president-elect and Sununu flew to Washington together today, but there was no announcement.
He will talk specifics in about a week or so.
Do you have an interest in the chief of staff's job?
I'll do whatever he needs.
While appointing a hardliner like Sununu would please Republican conservatives, sources say he might have serious problems dealing with the Democratic Congress, a major drawback for a chief of staff. Deborah Potter, CBS News, Washington.
Pain and lingering shock tonight in a tiny town in Texas. Banks are failing at a stunning rate all across the country. 182 banks have failed so far this year, compared to the record 184 for all of 1987. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady reports how the failure of just one bank means the loss of something more than money.
Whiskey River, take my mind.
Normally, Willie Nelson gets thousands of dollars for a night's work. But tonight, no fee, he's playing a benefit for Leroy, Texas. A town now as flat as the plains of Central Texas because its bank went under, with no insurance on its depositors' money. Wilma Aldis lost more than $30,000.
So, how would you like it if you have your life savings in the bank and now all of a sudden it's wiped out? You don't have nothing.
Nobody is sure why the bank went under. The owners are not talking. But altogether, nearly $6 million was lost. A crushing blow to a three-block town of just 253 people, many of them over 65, living on Social Security.
How could all this happen? Through a loophole in the law that has now been closed. This was one of just 5 Texas banks not regulated by the state, and it did not have to carry insurance on its depositors' money.
Just seeing the deserted bank hurts.
Back memories, kind I don't want to remember.
I can't get that money back. I can't get out and work anymore. I especially am sorry that I've lost faith in some people that I had trusted. Losing faith hurts a lot.
Faith and trust. The bank had been here since 1907. Checking accounts were kept by name, not number. When bank examiners closed it, the shock was felt all over Central Texas.
I was visiting up in Abbott, my hometown, and my barber up there told me about it.
If you got the money, honey, I've got the time, and we'll go honky-tonk.
So they listened to Willie Nelson, numb, still shocked by their twin loss of money and faith. And they wonder whatever happened to the days when banks were rock solid. Ray Brady, CBS News, Leroy, Texas.
Negotiators in Geneva today reached a U.S.-mediated peace agreement for southern Africa. Pending likely approval by their governments, Cuban, Angolan, and South African envoys agreed to Cuban military withdrawal from Angola in return for Namibia's peace independence. However, no actual timetable has been announced. February 1st is the reported possible starting date. In Pakistan, the moment long awaited by opposition leader Benazir Bhutto has arrived, a reasonably fair democratic election and a reasonable chance for victory. Anthony Mason is in Karachi.
For 11 years, she has shaken her fist at Pakistan's military regime and demanded democracy. Tomorrow, Benazir Bhutto will finally get her election. Victory would be the ultimate political revenge for the daughter of Pakistan's last elected prime minister, who was ousted, then executed in General Zia's coup.
The U.S. government, which strongly backed Zia, is watching these elections closely. Pakistan's borders with Iran and Afghanistan make it the most important U.S. ally in the region.
Bhutto once threatened retribution against her father's enemies, though lately she's toned down her attacks.
And her objective, if she should become the prime minister of this country, will certainly have to be stability and getting the country moving again rather than tearing it apart.
Her voice has been strained during weeks of campaign rallies that have often run till 5 in the morning. Outside the cities, people wait for hours by the roadside just to catch a glimpse of Bhutto's daughter.
And I feel a strength when I look out. I just feel a strength when I see all the people there, when I see the faces, when I see the hope.
9 smaller parties have hurriedly formed an alliance to stop her. Their leader, Nawaz Sharif, a former Zia crony, makes clear there can be no compromise with Bhutto.
I have never met her. I have never spoken to her.
Do you believe that that you could lose in a fair election?
No. I think we'll win even an unfair election. Let me put it that way to you.
None of the parties is expected to accept defeat gracefully. Soldiers are already in the streets to ensure an honest election. But as Ms. Bhutto knows, if the army isn't happy with the outcome, it's more than able to change the result. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Karachi.
In a sight reminiscent to American television viewers, a familiar-looking space shuttle glided to what is said to have been a flawless landing this morning, but this was a Soviet vehicle returning from its first mission of 3.5 hours. Other differences: there was no crew aboard, the landing was accomplished by remote control, and it was not shown to the public on live television.